Hello, everyone. Lovely to see you here again. My name is Susy. I'm the certified breathwork facilitator and the educator and guide in the field of womb awakening. And today I have a special guest for this interview. First of all, you are the first English speaking guest, so welcome. Jona is a guest for today's interview, and because Jona wrote such a beautiful bio for herself, and I really would love to honor it with the words that you wrote it. So I'm going to read it. So Jona is genderqueer herbalist, writer, eco-somatic embodiment and Shiatsu practitioner, and holistic health counselor. Beautifully, especially advocating for and dedicated to the queer, trans, and gender diverse community. Beautiful. Welcome.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Welcome. Welcome. Lovely to have you here. Yeah, we were just speaking right before this interview that we planned this for 2 months, let's say.
Mm,
But we said, yeah, we planned it for 2 months, but who knows for how long the universe planned this to happen. But I'm here
mm,
well, I'm here. I'm really happy that we are here, and thank you for
mm,
accepting my invitation. And I would like to just bring a little bit of background story why we are here. We met with Yona, right, a couple of months ago, like 5 months ago or something like that. And
mm,
you were the first non-binary person who really opened the world for me to getting to know these
mm,
these people. For me, I had quite a confused idea. I didn't really know what to think about, like a transgender or non-binary people, because there was just for me a lack of information and lack of, let's say, experience that would really, as you did, like open the door for me. And we had such a beautiful time once sitting together on the bench, and we had such a beautiful talk. And I was like, wow, I love that so much that I just want other people to receive it. I want other people to hear it. Because I really love your story. I love you as a being, but I really love your story and the brave steps that you had to take, or that you decide to take throughout your journey. And I would really love with this interview to really offer not just your story, but maybe a point of view, or maybe a point of view from someone who is really living it, for those like me who might have like 1 million questions. Yeah, so welcome and lovely to have you here.
Thank you for receiving me with open arms.
Yeah, beautiful. So, Yona, I will again open just this. I will open this bio, because there is already first question that I would like to ask you, because you
Mm,
wrote that you are advocating for and dedicated to the queer, trans, and gender diverse community. And
mm,
first of all, I would like to ask you, to give me some clarity about the language and about the terms, because right,
mm,
there is like a gender diverse, queer, non-binary, transgender. Like, is it
mm,
all one bubble, or is it like what is the difference in this
mm,
terminology? Again, for
mm.
me and maybe for
Yeah,
those who also doesn't know.
totally. Yes, yeah, thank you for that question. It does matter because, yeah, language is such a big part of this whole
Hmm.
spectrum and experience as a human, but also, yeah, as a trans person, as a gender diverse person. So yeah, it's great to know the terms.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, this will be a biased answer because it's just what it means for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because especially the word queer goes way back. So when we talk about like the 1900s, or in the 50s, 60s, especially, like this term had like a really bad connotation. So queer was like a slur. So it's only now that the community, the LGBTQI plus community, is reclaiming it and re-owning it. So it does basically like a basic definition that you would find on Google would mean like that queer is anything that is not like in the hetero bubble. So you're not heterosexual. You don't confine or like find yourself in that like heteronormative space. So anything beyond that is queer. And honestly, my personal definition of queerness is just a natural state of being. Um, like I think we're all queer in a way. Like we're all weird. We're all, like we all are weird in the best way. Like we are all natural beings. We're all part of nature, and nature in itself is inherently queer. Like we find so much diversity in every organism in nature. And why should we be different? Why should humans be different? Or we expect, I think, we humans constructed concepts and expect like, okay, we need to fit that box or this box, but actually let's burst the box. Let's just,
yeah.
collapse these borders. Yeah, and that would be queer for me, the word. And then when we come to like the transgender terminology, I would say that transgender is the umbrella term. So transgender would mean that anyone who doesn't identify with the gender or sex that they were assigned at birth would be described as trans. So we have the cisgender, which would be you, like you are a woman and you feel yourself as a woman. You were born as a woman and identify as a woman. This would be like the cisgender. And then on the other side, we have the transgender, which are people like me who feel they don't really confirm or assign themselves or feel themselves in that space of, yeah, generally, like then we come to the non-binary, like when you don't feel yourself in the space of either male or female, because of course there are trans people who identify as male or female. But it's just not like the gender they were assigned at birth. And yeah, so that would like transgender is the umbrella term, and then gender diverse and non-binary is this diverse open spectrum of anything in between male or female, anything beyond, a combination of the both. So it's basically, that's why I love the word queer as well, which is why I define myself, or like to call myself gender queer, because it's just like bursts the bubble. It just bursts the categories. It's like, okay, I don't know. Most of the days, I don't know what to do with the idea of gender, because it's so limiting, especially in this Western world. This idea of this is male and this is female, and all the gender stereotypes and expectations attached to that. So I love the word genderqueer because it's just, for me, there's so much relief in that and so much belonging. And I would say gender diverse and non-binary. Yeah, non-binary, you can already hear it in the word, which means like, okay, you don't see yourself on this binary, on this static binary that we get imposed with and on by these expectations, which is like male or female, but you just float somewhere else. Yeah.
Beautiful. So do you think one of my curious question, do you think there is like when a person who like a person like you, let's say, is born, and you go through certain like a process and evolution, and you go through certain like a social conditioning, or you are getting in touch with certain constructs of like and ideas how the things should be, and is it like that first you get in touch with this thing like oh my god, I'm weird, or I just doesn't fit, or I'm is it like that first touch, this bubble, that you maybe realize that you are queer, and after you go more and more and more into like a not like a specifying, you know, like you can say, hey, I'm just queer, or I know that I am non-binary, or I'm, you know, you can go closer and closer to this definition of who you are, aka who you are not, basically, because it's right, it can be such like an open term. But you know, I'm just curious if it really works like this, that you just first start to feel, okay, I'm not fitting in, you know, and after you get maybe with this like big umbrella, like gender diverse, you know, maybe I really don't fit into any of these two boxes. Basically, there are not that many, right? Just two, usually in this society. But after you go into this closer and closer, maybe understanding of who you are and how do you want yourself to be called or identified, right? How was it with you? Like, yeah, before I would go deeper in your story, because I still have like one more question, because the Jona story topic. Yeah, I would like to know, like, is it really like, you know, throughout this evolution, you just get to the point of your evolution, like, hey, something is just not really right, or I'm just not fitting it, or maybe I think that I'm weird. And after you start to discover, like, okay, maybe I'm queer, or maybe I just really don't fit into any of these two boxes, you know, and you start to search for your personal identity or your personal space in this world of, um, you know, um, gender, let's say.
That's a really interesting question, and such a big one as well. Like, I don't know how to answer in a concise way. But I guess, yeah, for me, or generally, I mean, as a human, just like as a human, like you and me, we all go through the phases of becoming and unbecoming. So we go through life, we all are conditioned in some way or another, of course, all differently conditioned, because we come from different cultures, come from different family systems, but we all carry conditioning. So I think that's like the base that I just want to lay for everything that will unravel in our conversation. Like, we all carry conditioning in a way, and there's so much liberation in unlearning, and this looks different for everyone. Unlearning can mean, for a cis woman, for example, unlearning that a woman has to behave or has to be a good girl or something. And for me, as a genderqueer person, it meant unlearning that I don't have to fit in these boxes and I still belong. And that like these two boxes are actually just two ends of a spectrum, and in between there's so much space to be and to belong and to find myself. And I think words, as you were also implying, like words and labels and like these, like, okay, I'm queer, I'm transgender, they can help immensely, because they give you a platform, they give you like a vocalization of. I remember when I first heard the word genderqueer, I was like, that's possible? I don't have to choose? And I was like, whoa, okay. But then, of course, all the other questions came rushing in and dripping onto me, like, okay, but what does that mean? You know? So, but just having a word to kind of anchor yourself in and find stillness in the storm of all the expectations of every, like, yeah, everything that society wants you to be, I guess, or just the conditioning, or you yourself, because there is a part of the internalized, the internalized heteronormativity, which we all carry, like that we are supposed to be that way, and then queerness is everything else, you know. And actually, like, queerness for me is everything, because as I said, we see it everywhere. It's part of all of us, and it's part of our natural state of being. So yeah, I would say it is a journey, just like for all of us. It is a journey of unraveling, of discovery, discovery, like uncovering, and a lot of like digging in, you know, and shedding the layers that you thought you had to wear and you thought you had to carry to be accepted. Because I guess that's at the core of everything, of all our endeavors. We just want to be accepted in some way or belong in some way or another. And I guess a journey for me as a queer person, it was a lot about like reimagining the categories. So finding new words. It doesn't have to be male or female. It's great. Like, it's great when you feel that way. That's brilliant. But it's not the only options. And I think we really, in the Western society, we glorify these two categories so much, that people, especially like gender diverse people, can feel like, okay, but where am I supposed to go? Where is the space for me? So I think over time, once your courage grows and once you find community with other queer people or with allies, you kind of grow this courage of demanding the space, of saying, okay, you don't give me the space, so I will demand it and create it myself. I think that's a really like queer thing to experience, and it's yeah.
Amazing, thank you. And you touched the topic that actually is my question for you, the next question, and or the topic that I would like to open with you, and is this social conditioning, right? Because we all are born with a certain gender, with a certain sex, that it's, you know, doesn't matter if we identify or not, because as a newborn baby, we just don't say like, hey, sorry guys, like I don't identify with this, you know, we just like, exactly, there is a evolution for all of us to our own sex, to our own gender. I think that really doesn't matter if you are accepting your gender or not. There is a journey for all of us to, you know, to see how we are with our own gender. But the social conditioning, right, the social conditioning comes right like since the beginning, right? And we had a talk about it like 2 days ago together. This something that I didn't thought about it that much, because for me, as a born as a woman, felt as a woman, you know, everything was kind of like you know, yeah, everything. I never questioned, you know, I never questioned this social conditioning. But how did you, in your process of evolution and growing up, and you know, how do you see now the topic of social conditioning? Like, okay, you are born as a girl or you are born as a boy, it means that papa papa, or it means for girls ta 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 ta. And what was the most challenging, let's say, the social conditioning concepts that you had to let go, you know, that you had to maybe, or that you, how to say, that you get in touch with, that you felt like, wow, okay, this is really, they are just basically two ways, you know, like left or right, or boy and girl, you know.
Yeah.
How
I
was
mean,
this journey for you?
yeah, social conditioning, that's a big topic.
Yeah.
For all of us. I mean, beyond gender, just as humans, we just love to dissect ourselves into categories, and I feel that leaves us fractured. It leaves us always having to choose one way or the other, because yeah, we most of the time we create and we artificially resurrect like ideas that are binary in the world. So we have good or bad, we have light and dark, we have this and that, we have here and there. So it's always like a binary concept. And I think understanding that life itself is not binary, life itself does not work in binary, static categories, because life is about wholeness. I think that was a big part for me to understand and like accept myself, to understand I am allowed to live my wholeness. I am allowed to explore my wholeness. And even if I don't have the terms right now or words to put on it, I am allowed to explore. I am allowed to discover what lies within me, what is there beyond any category, any label anyone could put on me, because we are all uncontainable. We are beautifully diverse humans, and usually words don't do us justice. So yeah, I think that was a big part, fluidity, accepting fluidity as a principle of nature. And of course I am drawn to nature very much so. So also in my work as an eco-somatic practitioner, or like my ecological work with queer people. So yeah, I think also what I want to invite in here as well is nature, and nature as my safe haven, but also at the same time my guide and my protector, in a way of like, the more time I spent in nature and with nature, I understood my own fluidity, my own queerness, my own self, because I just observed and I was like, yeah, like change is the only absolute thing in this life, in this cosmos. It's like the life force that's change. So who am I to force myself into one thing and stay that? And it's the same, like, also like for everyone, that's a human, that's a deeply profoundly human thing, to be able to allow yourself to change, and to allow yourself fluidity in whatever capacity that takes, or form that takes in your life. And I think for me, that was a big part. Like, and then just with the fluidity, kind of, there was this the social conditioning melting away over time, because I just realized how it doesn't make sense. Honestly, like, it just does not make sense. And of course nature had my back on that. Like, every time I did lose myself again, or every time, because it's easy, to get drawn back into the social chatter and societal conditioning and expectation, I still correct myself sometimes. I still catch myself sometimes, like, Jona, wow, that was some conditioned bullshit you just said. So but I try to like take it lightly, because there's compassion, there's forgiveness in that. And we talked about this as well, and you said it in the beginning of our call as well, like, we should be allowed to be vulnerable in the unlearning, and because then we can invite in compassion and lightheartedness as well, because we don't have to get it right all the time. The thing is, I think, is trying to unlearn, being open, and because that's another social conditioning, also, like, to be so afraid of the unknowing, of the uncertainty of something. Like, we conflate, like, the idea of safety with comfort, and the idea of like difference or differentness, we conflate that with threat. So we feel threatened, when we see something that is different. But as a child, what did we do when we saw something different? We wanted to know. We would like lean in and be like, what is that? I've never seen this, and we would ask questions. We would be curious. And that's something I want to invite again in this whole conversation around trans people, but also generally. I want to see a culture of curiosity more, of this, like, I don't understand this yet, and I will try, but like, bear with me while I'm learning. And this counts for me as well, because like, I am still learning from all my trans siblings out there, like, that are wiser than me, that are like have had like a different life path than me. Because of course I come from a quite privileged point of view, because I'm white, I'm slim, I was born in a privileged country. So I have other trans people that I talk with and exchange with, and I just have to, you know, lean back and be like, okay, wow, I can learn a lot from you. And I have a lot of questions still, and I think it will always be like that. Like it's an endless becoming.
Yeah. Open end.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing.
I don't know if I answered your question though. You can tell me
Well,
because I
honestly,
tend to like just
no,
travel off.
honestly, my question was like, you know, sometimes I try to like in my head it seems, or yeah, in my head it's just such a simple question, and in the moment when I try to speak it out, it just became ultra complicated.
I get that.
You know,
I
it's like,
get
oh
that.
my god, like so. Well, I'm happy that you catch the vibe and that you catch the
Mm.
essence and answered in your own way. And exactly our intention for this interview, which is
Mm.
like we are coming back to the intention, was yeah, really like made this interview or made this collaboration really may in this space happen anything that needs to happen and be said anything that needs to be said despite of the
Mm.
questions, you know, because I tried to create the questions but they were kind of like you know, like a little bit they were getting out of my head but in a really like yeah,
Mm.
it's like I felt it's not going to be just about the questions today, right?
Yeah.
And so whatever questions I ask, you answered in your own way, and I think that this is the
Mm.
best you know, this
Yeah,
is the best flow. So thank you for that. Thank you
of
for
course.
collaborating with me.
Mm.
I would like to yeah, I would like to go a little bit deeper or closer to you and to your own personal journey as
Mm.
a uh, how did you call yourself? Queer,
Genderqueer.
genderqueer, genderqueer.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay. Which two words were together? Genderqueer.
Mm.
Yeah, genderqueer person. How was it for you? Like, tell us
Mm.
your personal journey. Um, like when did you started to feel that maybe, hey, those two boxes that are presented to me by society just they are not enough or I don't fit, or maybe I am
Mm.
somewhere in between but I don't know where. Like did it start already in the childhood or when you were, I don't know, in the puberty, when you were, I don't know, getting into romantic relationships, or how,
Mm.
when did all started and how was your personal journey with the gender or queer gender topic?
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have
Yes.
about 40 minutes. So
Exactly. Exactly. I just wanted to
yeah.
say that. I want to be really aware of the time.
Hmm.
So I will just like break it down a notch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because yeah, of course we both know it's an expansive topic, as
Yeah.
everyone's life journey is. Like we could write books about our lives. Um, so yeah, let me try to be concise. I think for me, it did not consciously start in childhood, only like retrospectively, you know, now as an adult, as a like fully integrated being, I can like see moments like, oh wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. Um, but I think also retrospectively, I think where gender really started to play a role was once I started puberty, because I think before I was just a kid, you know. There were not many, I mean, at least in my childhood experience, it was quite gender neutral
Mm-hmm.
because I did not grow up in, yeah, I grew up poor. So I got like the clothes from my cousins, the toys from my cousins, you know, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just great that I had toys and clothes to
Mm-hmm.
wear. So we didn't even think about like what color it was. Was it pink? Was it girly? You know, so it was
Mm-hmm.
more about like just the human experience to like, okay, this is a child that needs clothes and toys. So let them just play with whatever they want because they need to be happy. And actually, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like that's how it's supposed to be, anyways, no matter if the family has money or not. But yeah, so I was just a happy child, you know, like being
Mm-hmm.
myself in my body. And there was no sexualization yet, you know, no like, this is a woman body, these are breasts, you know, and like this whole narrative that so quickly
Yeah,
gets imposed.
let me just interrupt you for a second,
Mm.
just to get clarity. I know, but I would like others to know, or you know, just to
Yeah.
know what we are talking about. You were assigned female at birth, right? So you
Yes.
were assigned female at birth. This
Yeah.
was your gender. This
Mm.
is, you know,
Mm.
okay.
Yeah.
You can continue.
Yes. Yeah. On that note, I want to jump in quickly and also want to talk about like the distinction between gender and sex in
Okay, okay.
English. Yeah, because assigned female at birth can be mean both, but usually it revolves around the sex. So it revolves around like, okay, which anatomy was the person born with? So is there vulva? Is there, yeah, I don't know what words I can say because this will be on YouTube. So
I also don't know, but I think that vulva is cool.
okay. So yeah, I will not go much deeper into that, but yeah. So, and even in that, like, I have to say this because yeah, it's so absurd. Even in like the topic of like sex and assigned sex, like we and the like mainstream and the prevalent narrative in biology and medicine is that there's only male and female, but there are intersex individuals. There are individuals who are, you know, have more testosterone, but have like are still a woman. So there is like this whole diversity in the endocrine system, and yeah, it's still a spectrum. But we like the mainstream medicine likes to pretend that it's like strict, you know, these strict scenarios or strict binary categories. But it's actually also again is fluid because yeah, newsflash, like nature is queer, so our biology is queer as well. So it's not that easy. So yeah, that's just something I wanted to put in here
Beautiful,
as a
beautiful.
little yeah extra.
Extra now. Yeah.
Exactly. What did I want to say? What were you asking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just asking about your own personal journey, and we, how to say, the moment that I interrupt, you were just talking
Ah,
about the
yes,
little
exactly.
Jona
Yeah.
wearing a different clothes, you know, not
Yeah.
really analyzing,
Mm.
you know, deeper what's
Yes,
going on. So
exactly. Yeah.
when the point that you maybe started to ask the questions or start to feel like,
Mm.
like something is maybe not
Mm.
right in just those two categories,
Yeah.
when it started for you.
Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, it did not start in childhood, and it certainly did not start in puberty, even though like there were these body changes happening to me because suddenly my breasts were growing and I always had a flat chest, of course, as a child because the hormones were not kicking in yet and you were not in these pubertal stages and development. So yeah, but I do like retrospectively, I feel like that at this point something else started. There was like a subconscious process of disembodiment. So I completely like when I look back, I was so disconnected to my body. Like the more my body started to change into the stereotypical female direction, I just disconnected, and I think it was a survival strategy of my body wisdom, of my inner wisdom that already knew more than I did consciously, obviously, or apparently. So I think like my teenage years were really marked by performance. I was just performing because it is really easy in the society to perform because there are scripts for everything. You know, you are a girl. Okay, here are these and these and these things you have to be. You have to be pretty. You have to be nice. You have to be sensitive. You have to be, you know. So
Not
yeah,
angry.
exactly. You have to be attractive. You have to take care of like what other people think. And then
Mm-hmm.
there are these other scripts, you know. So again, like it's really easy not to know yourself as a teenage girl, you know. So you can
Yeah.
just like like fla how do you say? Put yourself or in this like narrative and like
yeah,
not think about anything
yeah.
what you really are
Just
or
follow
who
this
you really are. Exactly.
unspoken, right, contracts.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
that's basically what I was doing for
Mm,
a really long time, and that's what I
mm,
think grieving as well a lot. Like after unraveling everything, I've been grieving these years because yeah, I've been just living disembodied. I mean, of course, I still had a great time, you know, like partying, being a teenager, but I
mm-hmm,
was not myself. And I think when I started to really tap into that and realize it was, I think, around the same time when I questioned my sexuality. So I realized, okay, I'm queer. I don't care. So I would say like instead of queer, I could also use the word pansexual, which means like I am attracted to people and not to a
mm-hmm,
gender.
mm-hmm,
And I think with that, of course, like because gender and sexuality oftentimes like just interlock with each other and are intertwined. Um, I think with that reflection and with that like yeah, just dissolving myself a bit from the like cis heteronormative bubble I was in. There
mm-hmm,
were of course like books and there were people and there were like different TV shows I would watch, and I would seek out queer content and I would meet different people because I would be in queer bubbles. And I think with all of that, with all of this stimulation, I more and more recognize myself in other people in
mm,
a way of like, oh, this is interesting. This fluidity that I see in that person and this like gender queerness, this ambiguity, this nuance of this
mm,
person, I feel something there. But of course, I still didn't have the words. That's the next
mm,
thing. Like, there's a difference between, okay, I feel something there, but I can't quite put it into words. I can't
mm,
quite, like, I can't grasp it.
mm-hmm,
Um, so yeah, but it was definitely around that time where I realized, okay, I don't care about gender when I'm attracted to other people. What about my own gender? Like what's
mm-hmm,
happening
mm-hmm,
there?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um
And what
and
age
then
did you wear the time, more or less? Like, what kind of age are we
uh
talking about now?
that was back, I think it started for real, like where I was consciously reflecting upon it.
Mm-hmm,
I think it was 18, 19.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um Yeah, definitely. That was and then it whole I think once you open the box, you know, once you open that knowledge towards
mm,
yourself, there's no going back, you know.
mm-hmm,
It just keeps on rushing through because yeah, I always imagine this like ocean of wisdom that has been held back your whole life and that just wants to flow through now. So everything
mm,
kind of comes in and it's just like an endlessly rich well of wisdom.
mm,
Um Yeah. So I think that was the moment where I realized, okay, what's happening? I don't, and yeah, then a lot of confusion started with
mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm.
Like, of course, because yeah, it's not, I mean, there's not a lot of representation. I feel like that really talks about like it's okay if you don't feel like a girl or a boy. Um and that kind of offers some guidance on it. So it was kind of do
Mhm.
it yourself. So I just kind of watched TV series, tried to read some books, but yeah, it was still like really internal. It was really just with myself. But more and more, the more deeper I went into that, the more love I could feel for myself again because
Mm,
I actually knew who it is I want to love.
mm,
Because before I didn't know who I was. I didn't have any contact or touch with myself that was authentic and it was real. It was more like, this is who the world wants me to be. So I will just play along and play that role. But I didn't have any sense of, yeah, real belonging inside my body, like this embodied experience of
yeah,
selfness that only came to me in that reflection. So like the unraveling and the shedding layers deep into the core of myself. And yeah, but it is a wild
mm,
ride. So if you have any
mm,
more questions about that ride, please do ask them. But because I would not be able to pick
yeah,
the
sure,
moments, you
sure,
need to ask me.
Sure. And actually, you already opened up a little bit of space for the question that I would like to ask, and it's I would like to touch little bit of the like the body topic, because this is something that I found really um, interesting. Not interesting, more like interesting is not the right word. Not the interesting. No, it was more in my head like interesting, but the topic of the body topic, you know, in your case, because I know that you went through the full mastectomy, right? Like you uh, I don't know if there is any other name, but basically you just let
There is, yeah.
there is. Okay, so you will tell us. But yeah, so right, because you said that like the evolution, like in the beginning it was more like the internal process, right? The internal like finding of who you truly are, decoding, delayering, this whole internal process. But when I met you, so I was a little bit like, wow, this like exactly. So like who do we have here? Because for me was surprising, and honestly, it was the first time to see someone who would decide to go through this operation, like consciously, to made as a decision that was for sure really important for you, and that represent a lot, because it really goes into the body structure, right? So I would like to ask you, like, if I can call it mastectomy, or I will call it mastectomy, and after you will tell us the other words that are used for this. But like when it went from this like internal process into the point that you said like, wow, maybe I feel I want to have a flat, how to say, flat chest, or I just want to,
Yes,
yeah,
flat
I just
chest,
want
yeah.
to, so maybe I guess that word. I didn't even know. But no, I just, when was the point that you actually decide to go through such a operation or such a decision? Because I feel that, yeah, it needs, or what I assume, and it's just my assumption, that it needs a lot of like courage, like you need to, courage is the right word, right? Courage.
Courage, yes, yeah,
Courage. Yeah.
yeah.
um to make this step, right? And
Mm,
to really get to the point that you really want to do it. And for sure, or I can imagine that it means, it means a lot to you, and it represents something for you. So if you would
mm,
tell us a little bit about this whole body process, how it was, like what it means for you, what it represents for you,
mm,
and also if you could touch a little bit on the topic of, maybe there are people who are watching this interview and
mm,
they are thinking about it, or they don't have that courage to do it, even that they feel that they would like to. Like, is there
mm,
anything that you would say about this whole process, that can be maybe helpful for others? Maybe also to touch on
mm,
the topic how the whole process, like really practically, like did you have to
mm,
find a surgeon, did you have to pay by yourself, or is it
mm,
like are you getting some money from the government so you can do
mm,
this operation, or how is it on the emotional part, but also on the practical part, this
mhm,
step of
mhm.
your journey?
Yeah, I think I will start with the practical part,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise I will forget. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, it depends where you are, in which country. So I did the top surgery is another word,
Mm.
actually. That I mean, that's the word that we in the community use mostly because mastectomy is such a medical term,
Mm-hmm.
and often, and it's, yeah, and it's also like has this, of course, this medical connotation with like breast cancer, and so it has a lot of baggage, and we don't want to be disrespectful of that. So I think top surgery is just like, yeah, something we claimed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um so yeah, I did the top surgery in Germany. the laws are horrendous in every country. There are a few countries, I think Denmark is quite liberal in it, but yeah, it's generally like that's a whole different topic. I will not go in there, but like trans rights are shit. Like they the state of them are, yeah, I don't even know where to begin. Yeah, but in Germany we have a law that is like about all of that is actually also being renewed right now to be a bit more modern, let's say. But yeah, at the moment that I did the surgery, which was last year in January, there was the law said that I needed to have a psychiatrist look at me and give me the diagnosis of transgender, which in itself is just really problematic because it does insinuate that transgender or the state of being non-binary or gender diverse is a disease or a diagnosis, which it's not. It's just a natural phenomenon that we can see all around nature, so why should it be different in humans? But yeah, so I had to get that. I had a really nice psychologist, thank God. And what I did is I connected with a trans organization in my hometown, and I asked them for trans-friendly therapists that I could work with that could give me the diagnosis. Because of course there are also trans hostile therapists that would just like not give you the diagnosis and just let you pay money and yeah, and so on. So I got the letter which said this human is transgender and is allowed to have the surgery. And that like the whole process of that, of like me proving myself and my transness to another being, and that person being responsible for what I am allowed to do with my body, that was really rough. It was really edgy for me to go through with that. But I was lucky and I had a really nice therapist and she was really understanding. And I could voice these feelings to her as well. And I could say, I feel this feels shit. Like, I don't know why I should prove myself to you. I feel really vulnerable. I feel really put on the spot. And yeah, she was really open to receive that. And then the next thing is in Germany, specifically, that if you want the health insurance to pay for the surgery, they only do that if you have been on hormone replacement therapy as well. So if I would have taken testosterone, which I don't want because I feel comfortable with my hormonal endocrine balance, yeah, but if I would have, I mean, the idea is why they do that is because the messaging is if you want to have no chest, that means you want to be a man. So we want you to be a full man. So please also take the hormones so you can pass as a cis man at some point. So that's the end goal, to pass again as a man. So because there's no in between, of course, no in between. So yeah, if I would have taken hormones, then I could have tried to get health insurance to pay. But I've also seen cases where that's not true, where it has been a like year-long fight for the health insurance to cover it. So I was lucky enough again to have had some savings, have had some money. So I paid for the surgery myself in Germany, in the private clinic as well, because that was the best surgeon I could find, and she was amazing. I paid like 8,000 euros. So it was quite quite a thing to invest in. So that's that. So that's like the practical steps. And then I had the surgery, I had recovery for like the full on recovery of like, don't move your body, be really quiet and still, was like 6 to 8 weeks. So also quite long. It was a real moment of hibernation and like just, waiting to be with your body and move, and yeah, feeling that your body is finally yours. And for me, I am best at expressing that in movement and like really feeling into my body and like being alive in it and really come to life with it. And I couldn't do that for the recovery. So it was a really challenging time, but I had an amazing support system. Yeah. So you rest for 6 to 8 weeks, and then after that, like, of course, your movement is quite, limited. So I could not do that. Like, I could lift my arm like this, but I could not do this for like 6 weeks. So the first time doing yoga and stretching, it was like an orgasm. It was so relieving. And so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I am back. So yeah, I think that's a practical.
May
Did
I
I
ask you
answer?
how?
Yes.
Yeah, in a practical level for sure.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you what it meant for you, like, right? Because it's a big decision. It was a bunch of money, so it means like you don't spend 8,000 just on something that you are not sure or doesn't mean that much to you, or that time you were not in the point that you would be spending like 8,000 euro just
Yeah.
like this, So what did it actually? Because this is again coming from my own curiosity, like. What it meant for you to actually go through this surgery? It's like, was it something that you saw your breast and you said like, wow, this is not me, or this is weird, or this is reminding me too much that maybe I was assigned female at birth, or, like, why breast and why not, for example, genitals, or maybe the genitals will come or not. I don't know, maybe you don't know. But like, what was the thing with the breast? Why did it mean so much for you, and what it represented for you?
Oh, that's a big question. And it also was a process. It's really linked to a process of, again, unlearning. I think it took me a long time to actually pinpoint what was the problem, because especially like in intimate moments, I just checked out a lot. Like, I just dissociated, and I could never pinpoint why that happened. And I can't even like pinpoint it to one moment when I realized, oh, it's that, it's the breast. But it also was a process, because like, of course, I thought, like, now I am of the conviction that like, your body, how your body looks like does not determine your gender. So gender is something that comes from the core, something internal, that's like an experience. So now I feel, I know, and I'm convinced that like, if you have a breast or not does not say anything about your gender. So for me, it was less about, oh, I want to look more masculine and less feminine. And it was all about like, I want to look more like me. So I think this whole thinking about gender and questioning my role in society and my place and how I want to present myself, but also how I want to be seen, it just helped in the process of like understanding how I want to inhabit the world, in which body. So it just helped me question, and also like, yeah, having my trans siblings that have had top surgery and seeing their bodies and feeling this euphoria, this joy, like this, my whole chest was like tingling, and there was a fire in my heart, in my sternum, just like, oh my God, I want that. I mean, that's not what I knew back then, but like, my body was telling me, I
Yeah.
want that. But I did not understand. Like, I refused to feel that joy and that euphoria for a lot of years, because the first time I saw a person that had top surgery, I was scared. I was like, what is that? Like, okay, don't look, like that was my reaction, because I was so scared of that enormous joy and that enormous resonance, because I wasn't ready to accept yet that actually, yeah, that is something where I see myself too. So yeah, it was this whole unraveling of like, okay, what do I want to really have a flat chest, or do I just want to be perceived with a flat chest? So because there are binders you can wear, so you can have compression vests, let's say, that I wore like, I think for 2 years before surgery, that would just like flatten my chest. So when I came home, I would like take it off and be with my breast. And that was, these moments were actually always the moments that were the most significant for me, because I was in my own home. I was in my own, you know, walls, in my own privacy, my own intimacy, and the breasts were still bothering me. So it's not about like how people see me. It's about what I feel my body to be. And yeah, again, which shape do I want to be in? What, it was a lot about like also homecoming, I guess. You ask what it means for me, what it represents. It is homecoming and reclaiming and shedding, literally shedding skin, to come home to myself and offer everything of me, like to actually make space for all of me in my embodied experience, to really drop in, grow into myself and become, because I feel like there was no space to actually hold for me in that body before. There was always some sort of, and yeah, of course I had like a lot of thoughts of like, but does that mean that like, do I just want to cut off my tits because like they're sexualized by society? Do I take the easy way out? I had all these thoughts, you know, of like, oh, I'm just taking the easy route, you know, because then people cannot sexualize me anymore. You know, like I had all these thoughts like that were just like messaging from an internalized trans hostility and internalized, you know, conditioning from society of like, you're not allowed to change your body, you know.
Was there also the question of this thing like, hey, if I let my chest go, it means that I don't accept myself? You know, it's like, because I think that is also like a big one, right? Like, I'm
that was,
accepting myself, but I want
yeah,
to go through this operation, you know? So, yeah.
yeah, that was, it's great that you say that, because that was actually the one, like I could be so at peace with myself and the decision of like, because it was always a go and back and forth, you know. It was like, okay, I'm gonna have the surgery, oh no, no, I'm fine in my body, it's okay, I can just like, you know, reframe it, transform my thinking about it. But I always kept on coming back into my body and not feeling at home. So it was not about like the internal, you know, it was not about the lack of consciousness, or the lack of love. That's also the next thing that where I return to your question. This did not happen out of the lack of love, but out of the presence of it. So the question I always ask myself was like, how can you say that you love your body and want to change it? So that was like how is it not like the biggest hypocrisy to say like, oh, I'm self-loving and like I love my body and I love myself and I'm at peace with myself, and then say, oh, I want top surgery, like. And then I realized, and it's actually interesting because I had a trans sibling of mine had a top surgery. When was it? Also last year, but in November, and they had the same process of like, you know, saying, but I should just learn to love my body as it is. And I replied to them what I had to hear back then, and what took me some time to understand for myself. I replied to them and said, but what if the change is the love? What if changing your body carries already within the seed of love towards yourself? Because you were born with this, obviously, with this desire, with this spirit that needs another earth body to live in. So what if that's part of the love towards yourself, to allow yourself to grow and to shed your skin and to emerge and morph? Because that's like the beautiful thing about being a natural being, that we forget about being, like, as humans we forget so much about like our ability to merge, to morph, to shapeshift. And yeah, I think that was like, once that nod has been kind of, because I didn't want to do anything out of like, you know, out of this, from a place of you are not enough, that's why you need to change yourself, you know. I wanted to act out of a place of I love you, and that's
And
why
that's
we're going.
why, yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, I want to share something. I remember when they like, I was in the hospital bed for the surgery, for the appointment, and the nurses, they rolled me into the surgery room, and I just felt so at peace, and I was so calm, and I just told my body that this is not to change you into something that you're not. This is to become what you have always been. So yeah, and that's basically it. That's the essence of it all. To just return, reclaim, and arrive back. And in a way, it was also a birth, like birthing myself again. And I felt my inner child a lot, like in a little Jona, that free little child, you know, like running around naked in a garden, just happy in their body. And there was a lot of that aspect as well. I felt like this inner child, and that just wanted to play again, that just wanted to have some lightness again and be embodied and deeply alive in your body. Like that's what I rediscovered again. Being deeply alive, like filling out every corner of yourself, every particle of you, allowed to feel alive in that authenticity, of coming back home to yourself. Yeah. So that's, I think homecoming is the word to describe it.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for, first of all, thank you for being open, and that you really, for me, you really create the space where I feel that my questions are allowed and not judged. And as I said, that I was that I was bringing my vulnerability into this interview because, right, like exactly, for example, a mastectomy. I know the medical term because I'm quite you know, I
Yeah.
really love the human body anatomy and the terms, and I study the medical school. So for me, like, okay, a mastectomy, you know, this is the word, you know. And exactly like bringing this vulnerability of like not knowing and wanting to know, the curiosity of like, hey, how was it for you? You know, and I'm really happy that you are here and that you shared with us like your personal story that can be just so different from many other trans beings, you know, who have a different story, or who, you know, really a different story, that you are unique. And I'm just so happy to have you here, yeah, and be the source of wisdom, not just for me but also for those who will watch the video or listen the, yeah, or for the watchers or listeners.
Yeah.
Amazing. Um, my last question
Mm.
for this beautiful collaborative space is, um, what do you feel, also based on the work that you now do for the transgender community, right? If I say it right, transgender community, maybe not, I don't know.
Okay, it's okay.
Okay, thank you, thank you. If you feel, if you see your whole journey, your whole life, the importance of this topic that you shared with us and the work that you do, uh, what do you feel that it's your personal mission? What would you like the society to know? You know, like what do you feel that it's your personal message or mission with the, yeah, with the topic of transgender or gender diverse uh, society, or gender diverse people, yeah.
Yeah, community is also a nice word
Community.
for that. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
community, it's a great word, but I also think that there are so many people who are not part of any community and they are trans, you know, or they are not yet, you know, that's why I think that they are everywhere, you know, they are everywhere.
Yeah.
Not everyone has their support and community, which is really
Yeah.
important, the work that you do, you know, that I see really the importance
Yeah.
that you do.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, because for me, community is like, doesn't have to be that we exchange personally or that they are part of the group, but for me, the community is like we are all one community. And yeah, there are different like places where we can relate. So I can relate with you because we've been on this beautiful retreat together, and I can relate with a trans person because we have shared experiences, but we are all one community. It's all because we all are communally living on Earth as Earthlings.
Yeah.
Like as beings on Earth and off Earth, I guess. Which also brings me to my mission or vision that is still unfolding. But yeah, I think at the core of it is embodied belonging, of like individuals and people who are back in touch with their natural selves, whatever that may look like for everyone. Accepting their fluidity, because I feel like fluidity was my survival, and we should allow ourselves to, yeah, step out of the boxes and back into the soil, into the earth. And I think if I would like wrap it up in, in like maybe a short sentence, is like I think my vision is to kind of bring together the social work, ecological work, and somatic work, because I feel like a lot of people in marginalized or socioeconomically disadvantaged groups in the world and in Western society, especially, they don't they are made to feel like the place that they inhabit does not matter, like that the space they inhabit in this world does not matter or can be taken away or appropriated. So I think like the belonging and the like saying you matter and you deserve to shine, you deserve to thrive, you deserve to feel safe enough to do all that, to like really bring everything of you to this world, to birth everything and all of you in your fullness and in your wholeness. Yeah, and I think like that, yeah, for me it's impossible to separate like the somatic, the ecological, and the social work. So yeah, I think for the trans and the gender diverse and the queer community, but also for everyone, like for humans in themselves, it's like just mending the gaps that we created in modern society between earth and body, between mind and body, between matter and mind, to really create bridges through curiosity, through connection, through community. That's a big one for me. Community work in a way of like learning again, like the natural principles of relating with each other, because I think we've not, like, yeah, in the Western world, we have unlearned that. We have forgotten about that. So we need to remember to like relate with each other in a way that is like mutual and based on reciprocity, and bring that relationship to the earth as well, with the earth. So yeah, that's like maybe a short way. I could talk on and on about this. So this is my vision, and I'm really passionate about it, especially like, yeah, queer bodies and queer belonging. And yeah, we all have like, yeah, bodies as ecosystems basically, and let them weave themselves back into the earth.
Beautiful. Thank you for this cherry on the top for this interview. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for sharing with
Thank
us your
you.
story. I would maybe invite the listeners or those who will be watching this video, if you have any questions or if you have anything you would maybe discuss personally with Jona, you can get in touch with her. I will share the contact in the description of this video. I know that you are really open, or since I know you, that like I'm really open to discuss these topics. So again, if someone would like to invite you for an interview or really discuss their own personal journey, I will definitely share a contact on you in the description. And um, I just got the idea that if you have some like recommended books, this is something that I always love, like the
I
recommended
do.
readings, you know.
Thank you.
But
Thank you. I was
I
thinking
would,
about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
we will also list them. We will list them
Yeah. We
into
can
the
create a list.
description, yeah, of this
Mm,
video.
yeah.
So thank you everyone for watching. Share it with your friends, share it with the ones who need it, share it in your community. Yeah, share this video exactly for those who might benefit from that. And as I hope that you by yourself benefit from watching it. And once again, thank you, Jona, for receiving my invitation and for for becoming a part of my personal journey as well.
Mm,
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you.
thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.